Of all the Royal Caribbean cruise ship cabins you can book, which ones would I not recommend booking? Today, I've got a few that I think you should definitely skip. Up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. And when it comes to picking a cruise ship cabin, there are a lot of considerations. Not every cabin is perfect for everybody, but for different reasons. But today I was thinking, what are some cabins that I just generally don't recommend anybody book because I just don't think they are as good as they may seem, or maybe they just don't live up to the potential that I think they could have. And in that, I came up with a few different cabins that I would definitely avoid, starting with number one, and that is infinite balcony rooms. So infinite balconies are a relatively new concept within the cruise industry, and it's really something I believe is only with Royal Caribbean group ships. Celebrity Cruises first introduced the infinite balcony concept with Celebrity Edge. And basically the idea is that imagine the traditional balcony space. And instead of having a balcony that you open the door to, go out to, and have a railing and the basically stereotypical traditional balcony, you have a convertible space. So you could basically use that area as an outdoor space because you could hit a button and then glass slides down and then you have a balcony, right? Because you have glass that goes up to your waist. You have an open area to be able to look out to. You have the ocean breeze, etc. And then if you're not using the balcony, this glass goes back up, and that space that the balcony, like the living space the balcony comprises of, can be reused as indoor space. On paper, this makes a lot of sense. And when I went on Celebrity Apex, and was my first celebrity cruise ever, I was actually pretty excited to try this concept out for myself. People had warned me about it, but I often hear a lot of negative feedback on a lot of things about cruising, and I try to take it with a grain of salt. I never want to go into something with a preconceived notion about what it could be. So I was like, no. The haters are wrong. This is going to be great. And so on Celebrity Apex, we had infinite balconies. Of course, on there, they call it infinite verandas, but I digress. And we went on there, went to the room, and you know what? The haters were right. It's just a window. I think I have two major problems with the infinite balcony. First and foremost, it doesn't feel like a balcony with the window down, because in a balcony, there is more of an open air area because, of course, the balcony is pushed forward from the living space. So even when you're not against the balcony railing, you still feel like you're outside. There's a breeze that encompasses you, not just hits your face, but like you're outdoors. You feel like you're outdoors. With the infinite balcony, that is not the case. It really is like a window in the sense that while the window is down and the breeze could come in, you're not enveloped in the open air. And it just doesn't feel like that. And oftentimes, it feels more stagnant. Now, obviously, if the ship is moving, you'll probably get more of a wind flow coming in, but it really doesn't act or feel the same way. Equally important, and I would even argue worst of all, is if there's any kind of humidity in the air, so like if you're going on a Caribbean cruise, I don't know, about 9 or 10 months out of the year, your entire cabin gets filled up with warm air almost immediately and lose all the air conditioning. In a traditional balcony, you have a door that separates the living space from the balcony area. It's usually a glass door, whether it opens up or slides, doesn't matter. The point is you can have a climate-controlled environment inside, and of course the outside environment being whatever it is, and that's totally fine. With the infinite balcony, that doesn't exist. And as soon as you open that window, any of the air conditioning gets sucked right out, and your room becomes immediately very warm and possibly quite humid. In the situation that we did this, and this was on Icon of the Seas for her inaugural sailing, the entire cabin gets fogged up almost immediately. When we went on Celebrity, the same thing happened because it was more of a warmer month, even though it was November. It was still plenty humid out in the Caribbean. And compounding the problem is that your air conditioning does not work while your infinite balcony is open. So essentially what that means is while you could enjoy maybe the Caribbean air and all that, as soon as you're done with it, and you close that window, your room is going to be hot and humid until your room's air conditioning can take back over and cool it back down, which is not going to be instant by any stretch of the imagination. The real problem here is that they use the word balcony or veranda, whatever the case may be. And it's just not the same experience. If they called this the infinite window experience, I don't think anybody would have nearly as much of a problem with it. The issue is if you're used to a traditional balcony, I think you're going to be very disappointed with this room. Now, even knowing all this, and you say, okay, Matt, I'm aware, I'm not ignorant of it, I am ready to experience it, I still think you're going to be disappointed in this cabin, and for that reason, I don't recommend an infinite balcony. Instead, I would recommend booking a traditional balcony if you really want that. Obviously, suites are another option for you, but keep in mind, by the way, there are some suites on Icon of the Seas that do have infinite balconies as well, so be careful about that. I remember when I was on Icon and I was at guest services trying to figure something else out, unrelated to my cabin at all, and somebody came down and said, we booked this infinite balcony, but it's not a balcony, it want to be moved, and of course that's not an option there, but this happens more often than you think when people don't pay that close attention to it. Anyway, my recommendation is skip the infinite balcony. Another cabin I don't recommend booking at all is the family ocean view stateroom, at least on some ships. Now on the surface, this is actually a great room, and we've stayed in these cabins before as well. Family ocean view staterooms are really spacious rooms. Sometimes they're referred to as the ultra spacious cabins. Anyway, these are cabins that are designed for 5 or 6 people. It can span from 265 to 328 square feet and includes a king-size bed with bunk beds in a separate area. When our kids were younger, this was a real godsend. We loved having all that extra space and separation. Plus, the kids enjoyed having like that bunk bed situation, their own little alcove to enjoy. It's really nice. The nice thing about these cabins is, of course, all the living space, an extra bathroom, tons of privacy. Seems like a great idea. The problem is on the Voyager and Freedom class ships, there are family ocean view cabins that are located all the way at the front of the ship, which again doesn't seem like a bad idea until your cruise ship docks. Whenever the cruise ship uses its bow thrusters to get into position, it feels like an earthquake. And it's not for like 30 seconds, it's for a couple of minutes. And it always happens at like 6 a.m., so it just jolts you out of bed and it really makes for a poor experience. I was really disappointed when we tried these rooms out because I thought it was really going to be the best cabin experience for us, and the shaking of the room really just left us feeling very disappointed with the cabin to the point that we would never book it again. If you can get these cabins in a different location depending on the ship, hey, that might be a really good alternative. But that being said, I just feel like this is one to avoid, even though it's fantastic for families. The shaking of the room, unless you're okay waking up at 6 a.m. and everybody's okay waking up at 6, cool. That's a great cabin for you, won't mind it. But it really made sleeping uncomfortable in a lot of situations. And the last cabin category I would not recommend booking is a connecting cabin if you don't know the people on the other side of the connecting door. Connecting cabins are essentially cabins that have a common inside door between them so that you could open that inside door without going into the hallway. This is really good for families or friends who want to be able to have, obviously, a common door between them, and it's really conducive for families. In fact, it's one of my favorite tips if you're traveling with kids but don't want to stay in the same room as them. It's like one of my go-to alternatives and one of my favorite choices. That being said, if you get a connecting cabin and you don't know the people on the other side of the door, the problem with this room is the noise bleed can be excessively bad. Now, of course, this all depends on who's staying on the other side of the door, but generally speaking, I've had some pretty poor experiences in situations in which I booked the connecting door and didn't know the people on the other side. Now, why would I ever do this? Almost always it's the result of booking a guaranteed cabin, and I wouldn't go as far as to include a guaranteed cabin on this list. There are lots of good reasons to go for a guaranteed cabin, assuming you're okay with the downfalls of them necessarily, but I just feel like the connecting cabin, though, if you can avoid it, you really don't want to stay in there because noise bleed is something that can be problematic for the entire cruise. I've been in situations in which we've been on a cruise and people next door are excessively loud. In fact, one cruise we were on, which was Mariner of the Seas, we had a friend staying in a connecting cabin that didn't know the people on the other side of the door, and let's just say the people on the other side of the door really loved each other. I mean, a lot. And so when you get that kind of noise bleed, it can really ruin the experience of being in your cabin. So if you're going to book a connecting cabin, that's okay. Make sure you're booking both rooms on either side of the door. If not, definitely avoid them at all costs. There are my list of 3 cabins you should absolutely avoid on any Royal Caribbean cruise ship. Let me know in the comments below. Did I miss one? Is there a specific category that you would say no one should book? I'd love to know the reasons why in the comments below. And if you stayed in one of the cabins I did list, let me know if you agree with me down there. While you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.